Welcome back to the Health Marketing Collective, where strong leadership meets marketing excellence. I'm your host, Sara Payne, and I'm bringing you fascinating conversations with some of the industry's top marketing minds. Today, we're diving into a hot topic, AI and its impact on marketing. This isn't a debate about whether AI will disrupt marketing. That ship has already sailed. AI is here to stay, and it's becoming a ubiquitous part of every marketing program and team. But the question on all of our minds is, how do we best leverage AI to help really level up our marketing programs in 2025? To help us answer that question, I'm thrilled to welcome Dale Bertrand, founder of Fire and Spark, a digital marketing agency. Dale has an incredible background in AI. In fact, it was the focus of his grad school studies. And he has a real passion for helping marketers use technology to really elevate the quality of their work. He consults and educates marketing professionals on the use of AI, and he's here to share some actionable insights and practical advice that will empower all of us as we head into 2025. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Dale.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to meet you, and I'm really eager to listen and learn from you today. I've followed some of your work previously, so I'm excited to have you here. And I wanted to start off with a conversation around one of your philosophies, which is that people should leverage AI to better their work, not replace it. And I wondered if you could start off by elaborating on that concept that you're, so passionate about, really using AI to better our work and not replace it.
Well, yeah, this is something that I've talked about on stage a bunch, which is like using AI to do better work rather than to automate your work. A lot of times when people first start using AI, they think that, well, instead of writing emails, instead of writing blog posts, I can use AI to do that work for me. Instead of, well, maybe you could spend the same amount of time doing that type of work, but you're going to do it better. You're going to write a better email. Maybe it's going to be more comprehensive, or maybe it'll be more attuned to the way that the recipient wants to hear the information, or would better understand the information. But you're spending the same amount of time on it. But you're just getting a better output. Like, I love the idea of doing better work or getting better results, even if it's the same amount of time that you're spending on the work. That's a different way of looking at the results that you're getting from using AI, rather than just always thinking about AI in terms of efficiency or productivity or saving time. That's a dangerous way to look at AI.
Yeah.
Rather than just like doing better work or higher quality work or getting better results.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that perspective, because I think it's easy for any one of us to fall into that trap of focusing on efficiencies over quality. And, on that note, you've really cautioned against that over automation of those types of efficiency tasks, because there could be that inherent degradation of quality. And I don't know that anybody's going to be surprised by that. I think most people would, believe that there would be some degradation of quality. But I think it's a good reminder as we're having this conversation. And I wondered if you could share any specific examples where you've seen AI make some errors or assumptions that, were a little bit alarming.
Yeah, I mean, AI hallucinates. I don't like the term hallucinate, because it makes it sound like hallucinations are always bad. Hallucinations can be creativity when that's what you're using the AI for. Like when you're using AI to help you brainstorm, because maybe, and I'll give you a great example. For me, I do a lot of conference speaking. So at the beginning of the year, like in January, like it is now, I'm thinking about concepts for workshops, keynotes that I'm going to do at conferences during the year. And I'll give the AI some examples. Like I had a technical career before I went into marketing. So I actually, in my former life, I built a supercomputer for the US government. So I'll give that idea to AI and I'll say, come up with some creative ideas for marketing keynotes for marketing conferences based on that an engineer would deliver who built a supercomputer for the US government. And I'll have it come up with creative ideas based on like marketing trends, 2025 marketing trends. And I want it to hallucinate. I want it to be very creative. I want it to talk about things like computer memory and how marketers need to remember, just crazy things that it might come up with, so that I can look at a long list of creative ideas and then pick out a few that I might be able to develop into marketing conference keynotes. That's creativity, not hallucination, but it's actually the same thing. The dangerous hallucinations that we're always talking about are when we're asking generative AI like ChatGPT to come up with facts, and it gets the facts wrong. That's the wrong way to use ChatGPT. We should never be doing that. But when we're using it for creativity to brainstorm, and it comes up with something unique and novel, because it's really just applying randomness to synthesize creativity, that's actually a useful form of AI hallucination.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that distinction. I think that's an important one to make. And I think sort of the logical next question or pathway to go down here is to talk about trust, right? Trust is a big factor here in the adoption of AI into marketing programs. So what would you say, Dale, to marketing leaders who still might be skeptical about the adoption of AI into their programs?
Well, it depends on what it is that they're skeptical about. Are they
Sure.
skeptical that, I mean, there's so many things to be skeptical about, and it's all valid, right? Like there are AI vendors that might be misusing the data, and yes, we should be cautious about that. And then also employees that might be using it now without your permission, and you don't even know. There are many organizations that have rules against using AI, and guess what?
Yeah.
Your employees are using it anyway. And you might be skeptical about its capabilities because there are AI vendors that are promising the moon right now. And we all know that the capabilities they're promising can't possibly be true. It's just not possible. If it sounds too good to be true, then guess what? It is.
It is.
Like we know that, right? Like we've been here before with many, many different technologies that have rolled out over the last 20 years. Like we know that. So like, yes, there are very good reasons to be skeptical. The problem is we don't want our skepticism to prevent us from adopting technologies that are going to be useful and help us to get results and improve productivity and quality and all that good stuff that we want. So we do have to do the hard work as marketing leaders to figure out which technologies we should adopt, what skills our teams need, and how to deploy these tools and upskill our teams so that we're benefiting from these technologies. Because within the noise, there are some tools and skills that we need. We just need to figure out which ones they are.
Yeah, absolutely. In preparation for this conversation, we were talking about sort of the list of ways in which AI will affect marketers most. And I know you have a strong perspective on that. So could you share the different ways that you believe AI will impact marketers?
Well, I'll tell you a story. Like I started with AI a long time ago because I studied AI in grad school. So I was building out technology back then. So I was doing AI before ChatGPT.
Before it was cool.
Before it was cool. When ChatGPT came out, I gave it to my team and we were using it for content, just like everybody was. And it didn't work. You don't want to use everybody, but at this point has realized that you don't want to be using ChatGPT to write blog articles. That's not the right thing. What we quickly figured out is that using it for creativity and brainstorming and ideation is really can be useful. So if you're trying to come up with creative ideas for campaigns, for ad copy, if you're trying to come up with headlines, subject lines for emails, that's really useful. And some people have said, well, why do you need AI to help you write? Why don't you just write? Like what I found is that in some ways, sometimes I'm doing more work and I'm spending more time than I was before AI, but I'm just getting a much, much better result. And I'll give you an example. One would be like updating persona documents. Like what we used to do is we would spend a bunch of time up front interviewing some customers, maybe having some conversations internally, putting together a persona document, and then using that for years to produce content and campaigns and all that good stuff around that persona. Now we're able to much more frequently update persona documents based on emails that we receive from personas, based on conversations that we have with customers on the phone, based on transcripts that we receive from recorded conversations. We can almost in real time update persona documents because we have AI tools that can help us do it. And the way that we do that is we'll have a persona document, let's say like in Google Drive, and we'll have a transcript from a recorded phone conversation. We'll give those two things to and a large language model like ChatGPT or maybe Gemini, maybe Claude, and we'll ask it to suggest some updates to the persona
Mm.
document, and then we'll approve the ones that we like. The whole process takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes every time we do it, and then we apply 1 or 2 updates, and then we move on with our day. And we do that on a more
Real time.
regular basis. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost real time. And so that's more time updating persona
Right.
documents than we had spent in the past, but we get a much better result.
That's
in
a
terms of
great
the accuracy
example
of our personas.
of what you're talking about earlier, which is quality over efficiency, right? It's this ability to be able to learn more about your audiences in real time and then apply that to the campaigns that you have in market or going to be deploying in the coming days or weeks.
Exactly. And you wouldn't get there if you were just focused on efficiency. And if your leadership was only focused on, how can I shrink my team? Or, I've got 5 marketers on this campaign today. How do we make that 4 tomorrow? You'll never get there.
That's fascinating. Do you have any other examples of just sort of really strategic ways to deploy AI that are giving you these quality gains that you shared in that example?
Well, for me, when I'm doing thought leadership, I'm deploying content on a number of different channels. So it'll be email. For me, it'll be email, LinkedIn, and then YouTube videos. And I'll get feedback in the form of email replies and comments on the other 2 channels. What I'll do is in the same way as I do with the persona example, I'll automatically update whatever the concept is that I'm writing about based on that feedback that I'm getting. I want to be careful here because I'm never asking the AI to write for me, but I am asking the AI to suggest updates, and then I do the writing. And I'm asking the AI to suggest updates based on the feedback that I'm getting. And those are email replies and comments. And I actually just did that this morning with something that I posted on LinkedIn, where I got a bunch of reactions to basically an idea that I had that I wrote about at length on LinkedIn. And I got maybe 30 comments from 30 different people that helped me refine the idea. And I gave the LinkedIn post and the comments to AI. And I said, well, based on the reactions to this post, suggest some changes that I might make to help me refine this idea. And it did. And I didn't copy and paste. I just went back and I refined what I had written based on the ones that I agreed with. And that really helped me, right? So I'm doing more work, but I'm getting much better quality output. And eventually what these ideas turn into for me is keynotes that I do on stage. But you can see how I'm refining my ideas over time, and AI is helping.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying here, and these are great insights and inspirations for others to be able to take forward and use in their own programs as well. But you're absolutely right, and that's actually still a lot of hard work, right? Like I'm even thinking about all the copy paste you had to do from each of those LinkedIn comments, right? Like I don't even know that, does LinkedIn have a little widget where you can download all the comments you got on a specific post and be able to upload? I mean, right? Like I know this is a tactical example, but that's hard work to in real time take that feedback that you're receiving on a post. And
but the realization I want you to make is the realization that I came to while I'm doing this, is that there's a difference between thinking and what I'll call like tedium, which is like what I'm describing to you is like my brain hurts when I'm doing what I just described to you because I'm doing a lot more thinking and a lot less tedium. The AI is helping me to spend more time thinking through the concepts and writing about them, because back in the day I would write to think. But the reality is I was spending some of that writing time writing, and some of it just kind of like organizing, formatting, proofreading. That wasn't really thinking. That was writing. But the thinking writing was the part that I'm not giving up to AI, because that was valuable. Like when I'm thinking writing, I'm refining a concept, or I'm coming up with an idea for a marketing campaign, or I'm refining my persona, or I'm working on my messaging, or I'm figuring out like what messaging is really going to resonate. Like that's the thinking that I can't give into AI. I'll never give that thinking to AI. But everything else I was doing. So what I discovered now that I'm kind of partnered with AI for a lot of what I do, that a lot of the stuff I did before AI did, maybe half, I don't know how much, but maybe around half of what I was doing was actually tedium. And I can actually spend that time now doing real thinking. And that's why I'm getting better results.
Right. And I guess the point that I was making is like, it's a choice. it is a conscious choice to be able to say, I am going to slow down when what might seem to be tedious work, but I'm going to make an intentional choice to take this feedback and insight that I'm getting and feed it to AI so that I can enhance the quality of what I'm doing, right? Like that's a very intentional choice. And that to me is a choice to, not go the easy route, right? It is a choice to enhance the quality. And that's what I mean by hard work, right? Like you're choosing to go down that pathway because of this, the belief and the strive for better quality work.
Yeah. And if instead you say, you make a different choice, which is I'm going to use AI to create something that looks like a blog post, then you're not doing any of the hard work.
Right.
And you're
right.
something that looks like a blog post.
Right. Absolutely. We were also talking about, that it's not only going to impact AI, not only impact how marketers do their jobs, but also will affect the way that consumers will find products and services. Did you want to comment on that part of it just briefly, the how consumers will find products and services?
Yeah, I think this is a distinction that I always make because it frames the conversation well when we talk about AI. People are always asking me, like, how's AI going to impact marketing? And it's going to impact marketing in a bunch of different ways. And it's important to make the distinction. Like, AI is going to change the way marketers do marketing, but it's also going to be applied to the algorithms that rule digital marketing, like Google's algorithm and the social algorithms and email algorithms, like email filters. There's a lot of algorithms out there that are implementing AI, and that matters, but that's different from how marketers are going to use AI. But then the other piece of it is that because of the way software is implementing AI in so many different ways, consumers are going to find the information that they need to make purchase decisions around products and services differently because of AI. And one way I would illustrate that is like going forward over the next year or two, what I would expect is for there to be this bifurcation around search platforms, where there are traditional search platforms like Google that will be using AI. But these traditional Google type search platforms are going to be used best by consumers to make decisions, to decide between products, or to decide within a product category, to make a purchase decision, in other words. But then there's this other category of conversation, and we'll call them like generative engines, generative AI platforms like ChatGPT or Perplexity, that are more information engines, where if I want to know how to tie a tie or to change my oil, or if I want to understand the difference between socialism and communism, I would have a conversation with one of these generative AI search engines. Or if I'm planning a trip to Japan and I want to explain to it that I'm a family of 4 and I have teenagers and they love nature and I'm lactose intolerant when it comes to choosing restaurants and I want an itinerary for 15 days. And I give it 50 other details because I want to make sure that I get the right itinerary. That's not a Google search. That doesn't look anything like a Google search. So there's 2 different types of search platforms. And consumers are just beginning to figure that out. But the technology is making it possible for consumers to go to 2 different types of places for 2 different types of information inquiries. I'm making up the language as I go here.
Yeah, and you're sort of alluding to the fact, Dale, that we're not quite there yet, right? Like this is what's coming next. That's consumers are just sort of starting to realize the difference there, and that this will be coming. As you think about, marketers prioritizing their sort of channel strategies, at their budget spend for 2025, do you see, as you're consulting with folks, are you recommending any changes in how they're going to market with various different channels, and the prioritization of that budget spend sort of based on some of this, early indication of where this is going to go? Or is this going to be like, we're going to be learning along the way and sort of like verdict still out on exactly how that's going to sort of impact the overall budget spend and where people are communicating to reach their audiences?
So in 2025, budgets are tight.
Yes.
What what our leadership wants is more with less, right? So basically, we need to figure out how to get more from the budget that we have, and make sure that we can show that the resources that we're using are making an impact on basically making an impact on the metrics that our C-suite cares about. Like, basically a tangible impact that is measurable, and that's very hard. That's difficult with what we would call like dark traffic that isn't measurable. And then also, if we know that we need to spend money on brand marketing, but it because it accelerates the performance marketing channels that are measurable, but it's sometimes hard to justify. So in 2025, when it comes to like the generative AI search channels that I was talking about, we want to start measuring the shift. We want to start paying attention to where our audience is searching for information related to the services that we offer. And a lot of that is just asking them, because it's not measurable.
Yeah.
It's just not all measurable. The mistake that we often make is that we invest in the channels that we can measure. It's like searching where the light is.
Right.
Like, if we can see it in GA4, then that's where we're gonna put our dollars. But where the puck is going, in the analogy there's like skating to where the puck is going, but like where things are headed is that our customers are going to be using these generative AI platforms more and more, and that is just not measurable. It's a conversation. It's not even a search. It's a conversation. So we're going to discover when they start using, when they hit that tipping point. They're not there yet, but when they do hit that tipping point, we're going to discover it by asking them. So we need to start putting those feelers out there in 2025. That's what 2025 is all about. So we put those feelers out there by making sure we're asking the right questions. And then when the point comes, which will be towards the end of 2025, going into 2026, then we need to make sure that we've got visibility in those platforms. Like, basically our brand has visibility in the generative AI platforms. And that's what we need to be working towards in 2025. But right now, in January of 2025, we still need to be optimizing for Google. Like, Google is still like 80-90% of the game when it comes to organic search. It is shifting. And then the other thing that's important is, like, Google is going to win this game because they have the best technology. They already have everybody on their platform. Like, they're going to win. The thing is, we don't know what Google's going to look like when they win, because they are going to own the generative AI search game, and they're going to own the traditional search game. It's just, we don't know what we need to do in order to optimize for both of those yet.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Just to think about where we are today, how much has already evolved and will continue to evolve at a very rapid pace. Obviously, Dale, marketers are going to be on very different sort of ends of the spectrum, or different points along the spectrum from an adoption standpoint. If a marketer listening today is sort of early on in integrating AI into their campaigns, I know you've given a lot of great sort of tips already and advice already. Do you have any thoughts on where they should prioritize to begin? And obviously this is somewhat of an unfair question because we don't know what their objectives are, right? Like, we have to make some assumptions here, but in a general sense, where should people begin?
So everyone's starting somewhere different. If you're just getting started, then just start. Start where you're at is really what it comes down to. Like, if you're just getting started with it, then using it for anything, you'll begin to learn some intuition around what it's good for, what the limitations are, how to use it. I think it's important. And what we're talking about here is generative AI. There's more than just generative AI. There's also predictive AI, because you can use AI to predict a number of different things, which is also important. But really starting to use it and getting some intuition is important. If you've already been using AI, then what I would do is talk to colleagues and join some groups to make sure that you're asking colleagues what they're getting the most value out of in terms of tools or techniques or methodologies around using AI. There's so many different tools and strategies out there that you've got to learn from a trusted colleague who is getting value from something. I follow AI for a living, and I only try things that I hear from somebody I trust who is getting value from something, because I cannot just randomly try stuff that looks interesting. I would be trying literally hundreds of different things a day if I were to do that. So I only try stuff that somebody I trust tells me is working for them. So that's what I recommend for people.
So, okay, let's put that into real-time practice here. And I'm going to ask you, where is AI delivering the greatest value for you? Again, I know you've given some great examples.
Oh, yeah.
But do you have a couple, one or two more to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I mean, the tool tip for today is just this morning, I created a 10-minute video for my team where I was showing them Google's deep research. And I don't know if anybody really knows about that tool at this point, but what it does is it does research on a topic for you. And it's the equivalent of paying somebody to do 4 or 5 hours of research on a topic across 30 or 40 different websites to research a topic. Now, for example, if you wanted to research a public figure who does a lot of speaking on a very specific topic, let's say parenting. Let's say there's a parenting speaker who knows a lot about parenting, and you want to know, what does this person say about parenting when they speak? And because I want to learn all of it, it would find everything they've said, and it would go to 30 or 40 different websites, find all those pages, and it would compile a 6 or 7 page document on what they've said.
Wow.
And if that's useful to you, then you would read that 6 or 7 page document and you would learn it, and you wouldn't have to do any of that research. So what I found is that if the information you're looking for is available on the web across dozens of web pages, not one, not 500, then this is a very useful tool because it will save you 3 or 4 hours of work. And so I've used it a dozen times in the last couple of weeks, and it's saved me 3 or 4 hours each time I've used it for various different things. So I made a video for my team this morning, and I said, hey guys, you should really be using this tool because it's been working really well for me. Now you need Google Gemini, which I believe.
Okay, I was going to ask you. Yeah.
In order to use it, but it's $20 a month. So
yeah,
it's a no-brainer for me.
Absolutely.
That's my tool of the day.
Love that one. We're just starting to experiment more and more with Gemini on our team here. Seems to be far superior from a visual standpoint in terms of what it can produce comparatively to ChatGPT. But this was a new capability I hadn't heard of yet. Obviously, experimenting with using ChatGPT for similar types of queries and outputs, but this seems superior for sure. And obviously, assumption here is that those channels have to be open API, right? Like LinkedIn would be excluded from that search, if you will.
It needs to be information that you can find in Google. Interesting. I think that's true.
I know with all these things, they change so quickly, and right here, I'm putting you to the test on a tool that you've just started to learn. But no, I really appreciate you sharing that example, so folks can get in there and start playing around with it. Any others come to mind?
I'm trying to think. I mean, very similar to that one. I mean, I use Notebook LM. Have you used Notebook LM? I don't know if that one's another one that people know about or if it's new.
I don't know about it, but
well, same type of thing. You would love it. You put any type of information. I'll tell you the last time I used it. The last time I used it, I found a blog that had a bunch of useful information on it. And there were 10 articles on the blog I wanted to read, but I didn't have time. So I took all 10 articles and I gave it to Notebook LM. And what Notebook LM does is it makes a 20-minute podcast out of the articles. And I listened to that podcast on double speed. Sure. And what's really cool about the podcast is that it's 2 people talking to each other. So it's
Fascinating.
insanely easy to digest compared to reading 10 technical blog articles.
Right. Or
So
just a robotic Siri voice, right? Talking to you. Like this is
yeah,
more
but I
conversational
want to
in nature.
yes, but I want to give you an appreciation of how easy to digest this is. So when I was in grad school, we wrote technical papers on AI. And one of the papers I wrote 25 years ago, I went back to read it and I didn't understand it. Like
Wow.
it was like really. So I gave it to Notebook LM and it explained it to me. And this is a paper that I wrote in grad school 25 years ago. So it's like, so if there's a technical paper that is like well beyond you because it was written by a PhD, you
Yeah.
can give it to Notebook LM and it'll give you a podcast version of it. Like imagine if you were listening to like a New York Times podcast and they explained a research paper that had been written by an MIT PhD on some esoteric topic. It wouldn't be for a PhD audience. It would be for a general audience, and you would expect to be able to understand it, right?
Yeah.
That's what this tool does. Like that's how powerful it is.
This is education in 2025, folks. I mean, this is like the 2025 version of Cliff Notes, but
It's
for
insane.
extremely technical topics.
So imagine a world where you could understand any technical academic paper in 20 minutes in a fun conversational format that feels like a podcast written for the public. Like that unlocks a lot. Like you got to wrap your head around that. That unlocks a lot. So that's I've been using it a ton because there's a lot of stuff that there's just a lot that just was inaccessible beforehand. And I'm a pretty technical person. You know, I've studied, I'm a pretty technical person. And there was a bunch out there that was just too dense and too, like I just couldn't, it was just inaccessible to me, right? But then Notebook LM just unlocks it like that because of the format.
So great. So great. I'm definitely going to check that one out. All right, Dale, we're heading into my favorite part of the show, the quick fire round. I'm going to throw out some rapid questions and you give us your best answers. First question, what's one way marketers can use AI that most aren't thinking about yet?
To learn anything. You can have a conversation about any book, even if you don't give it the book. You can have a conversation with a book that you never even bought.
Love that. What's the biggest myth about AI and marketing that you'd like to debunk?
That it's going to take marketers' jobs. Like it's already creating new jobs in marketing.
So great. Love that. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to marketing leaders as they embrace AI?
They need to be the ones learning it, driving it, and begging their team to adopt it.
God, that's such great advice. Okay, last question. Give us one bold prediction for how AI will shape marketing over the next 3 years. Let's say 3 years.
We won't even be talking about it in 3 years. It's going to be like breathing oxygen.
Yes.
So imagine if I walked into the room with you and said, "Hey, did you breathe oxygen today?"
Right. Great point. Great point. Well, Dale, I've learned so much today. This has been an incredible conversation. Thanks so much for sharing your insights. Where can our audience find more of your work or connect with you?
Well, I try to post daily on LinkedIn. So let's connect on LinkedIn.
Love it.
And shoot me a note if you have any questions about anything related to AI or SEO. That's what I write about.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dale, again for being here today. And thanks to our listeners for joining us. And if you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for today's episode of the Health Marketing Collective, where strong leadership meets marketing excellence, because the future of healthcare depends on it. We'll see you next time.